Now with number 24, this one looks very easy, but I would suggest being cautious, showing your work, and using an SAT strategy so that you don't fall for any of the traps here. Now, what strategy should we use? Well, this question looks nothing like number 23. However, we're going to solve it the exact same way. Why? Because all of the choices are equations. And if I have equations, I would love to have some points, and that's exactly what a graph is. A graph is just a collection of points. So I can use my favorite strategy, plug points into equations. Now, because it's a graph, I have a whole bunch of points that I can choose from. So this is another good example of be lazy. Pick something that's going to be easy to work with so you don't have to go out of your way with weird numbers. The other piece that is a little confusing is there's all these dots everywhere. Do we need to focus on the dots or do we need to focus on the line? Well, the question kind of tells us, right? Which of the following could be the equation of the line of best fit? So the dots here are completely irrelevant to the question. That's one thing the SAT likes to do. I would say that almost always our focus is the line, not the dots. But there are exceptions, so just pay attention to what they're asking for. Depends on the question. So the point that I'm going to choose is not anywhere given, but it's the top corner. And the reason is that the numbers are easy, right? 300 and 150. So I'm actually going to write that point down, 300, 150. And I write it down because, again, I know what the SAT is trying to do to mess with me. And one of the traps that they tend to set for people is they want you to confuse X and Y. And especially if I look at these answer choices, some of them are 1/2, 0.5, and others are 2, doubling. So I know just from the answer choices that this is, they want me to make that mistake to confuse X and Y. So this is a great example of just be cautious and write it out. Try to minimize the chance that as you're moving fast through a question, you make a careless mistake because, this could be 10 points. And if if those careless mistakes keep happening, those points add up and you could lose, 50 points pretty easily on stupid stuff like flipping X and Y. So what do we do? Well, let's just plug them in and see what we get. So we can hopefully see that 150 is not going to equal negative 0.5 times 300, mostly because the negative is a problem, right? So that's going to get rid of A. And we could probably also see it's going to cause a problem with choice C as well because there's no negative in either of my points, either of my coordinates. But if we do it for choice B, we're going to have 150 is equal to 0.5 times 300. I don't need a calculator to know that 150 is indeed 1/2 of 300. If you want, put it in your calculator, you'll see the same thing. So that's looking really good for B. Now, in this case, I know that D is not going to work, but I'm going to plug it in anyway for the sake of good habits, because sometimes when we have to use the plug points into equations strategy, they give us two equations where a point works in both of them. So it's better to take a little extra second and just reinforce a good habit that might save you points in another place. So it doesn't take long, right? 150 is equal to 2 times 300. Well, no, because 2 times 300 is 600, so that doesn't make any sense, leaving us with choice B. There you go. So completely different question from number 23. If you haven't seen that video, I recommend going back and looking at how this exact same strategy, plug points into equations, worked in two very different situations. That's why it's my favorite strategy. That's why it should be your default move on all sorts of questions. Whenever you have equations and points, try to plug them in.